Lieutenant Amanda Thompson stared at the massive holographic display of what appeared to be a giant disco ball wrapped in ceremonial ribbons. She bit her lower lip hard enough to draw blood, desperately trying not to laugh. Behind her, the bridge crew of the U.S. Mean Lord was failing miserably at maintaining their composure. "That's their flagship," whispered Ensign Mike Peterson, his voice cracking. "It looks like my grandma's Christmas ornament collection had a baby with Studio 54. The Imperial vessel, Eternal Radiance, hung in space before them, its surface gleaming with what seemed to be millions of reflective panels arranged in intricate patterns. According to their sensors, it was the most advanced ship they'd ever encountered. According to their eyes, it was a cosmic joke. "Maintain your professionalism," Amanda hissed through clenched teeth, even as her shoulders shook with suppressed laughter. This was humanity's first contact with the Galactic Empire, and she'd be damned if they messed it up by giggling like schoolchildren. The ship's AI, nicknamed Snarky, chose that moment to chime in. "Incoming transmission from the Imperial vessel. Should I activate our disco lights in response, Lieutenant?" "Snarky, I swear to God." "Opening communications channel," the AI interrupted, somehow managing to sound both professional and amused. The main screen flickered to life, revealing what could only be described as a gathering of extremely serious-looking aliens dressed in what appeared to be full-body sequin jumpsuits. Their Grand Marshal, distinguished by an extra sparkly collar, stepped forward with magnificent pomposity. "Greetings, primitive vessel," the Grand Marshal began, his translator rendering his words in perfect English. "You stand in the presence of the Eternal Radiance, flagship of the—" He sneezed unexpectedly. The translator glitched. "Space Chicken Nuggets Supreme, ruler of the cosmic disco, herald of the great glitter ball." Dead silence fell over both bridges. Amanda watched in horror as her tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah Parker, slowly slid under her console, shoulders shaking uncontrollably. The Imperial crew seemed frozen in place, their expressions unreadable behind their crystalline faceplates. The Grand Marshal cleared his throat and tried again. "As I was saying, commander of the Sparkle Fleet, defender of the sacred dance moves." Someone on the human bridge snorted. Amanda couldn't even tell who anymore. She was too busy focusing on the spot just above the Grand Marshal's head, knowing that if she looked directly at his increasingly flustered expression, she would lose it completely. "There appears to be a slight malfunction," the Grand Marshal said stiffly, while his subordinates frantically worked on the translator. "Please stand by while we initiate the sacred first contact protocol, passed down through 10,000 years off. Boogie Wonderland's chosen representatives." That did it. The dam broke. The entire bridge crew of the U.S. Mean Lord erupted into uncontrollable laughter. Even Amanda, professional to a fault, found herself doubled over her captain's chair, tears streaming down her face. Through her tears, she saw the Grand Marshal's expression shift from outrage to confusion to something that might have been dawning comprehension. One of his junior officers was making a strange shuffling motion that looked suspiciously like suppressed laughter. "I apologize. Most sincerely," Amanda managed between gasps. "We mean no disrespect to the—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Supreme overlords of the Galactic Dance Party," the translator helpfully supplied. The junior Imperial officer lost it, emitting a high-pitched trilling sound that their translator rendered as a mixture of giggles and hiccups. The Grand Marshal whirled around in shock, his sequined uniform catching the light and sending rainbow reflections dancing across both bridges. And that's how humanity's first contact with the Galactic Empire devolved into an intergalactic laugh riot, setting the tone for all future diplomatic relations. The official report would later state that initial communications were hampered by technical difficulties, but the unofficial story spread through both human and Imperial space like wildfire. The Empire would eventually fix their translator, but they never lived down their first impression. And somewhere in the vast database of human achievements, a video clip of the supreme overlords of the Galactic Dance Party would become one of the most viewed pieces of content in human history. Captain Jack Murphy stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his regulation uniform for what had to be the 100th time. Behind him, his first officer, Commander Lisa Hayes, was trying very hard not to roll her eyes. "You know we're not actually going to wear these, right?" she said, holding up a garment bag containing what looked like a cross between a disco suit and a spacesuit. "The traditional Earth diplomatic attire is ready." Jack grinned, his reflection showing the mischievous glint in his eyes that had gotten him both promoted and nearly court-martialed multiple times. "Did marketing approve the ship's new paint job?" "Oh yeah," Lisa chuckled, pulling up images on her tablet. "The U.S. Groovy Times is ready for her debut. Marketing actually added some extra touches. Wait until you see what they did with the running lights." The newly rechristened U.S. Groovy Times, formerly the state-of-the-art diplomatic vessel U.S. Washington, now sported a paint job that would make any 1970s van owner proud. Flames raced down its sides, complemented by a massive airbrushed mural of Earth's most majestic creatures, cats riding skateboards through space. The crowning touch was a massive disco ball attached to the ship's communications array. "Perfect," Jack declared. "What's the current status of the betting pool?" "Up to 50 million credits," Lisa replied, checking her datapad. "The Regilians are heavily favoring 2 hours before the Empire figures it out. The Centaurians are betting on 2 weeks, and someone from Alpha Proxima put down 1 million credits on never. They think the Empire will be too proud to admit they don't understand human customs." The journey to the imperial capital was surprisingly uneventful, if you didn't count the growing number of ships joining their convoy just to take pictures of what they claimed was Earth's most sacred diplomatic vessel. By the time they reached imperial space, they had accumulated a following of over 300 tourist ships. "Look at that," Jack whispered as they approached the capital. "They've arranged their entire ceremonial fleet in traditional imperial diamond formation. Would be a shame if someone interrupted their perfect symmetry." Lisa's eyes widened. "You wouldn't." "Helm," Jack called out. "Execute diplomatic approach pattern Delta Funk 7. The U.S. Groovy Times broke formation and began executing what appeared to be a perfect recreation of John Travolta's Saturday Night Fever dance routine, complete with synchronized running lights. The massive disco ball spun, sending sparkles across the hulls of the thoroughly confused Imperial fleet. "Sir," Communications Officer Tyler Rodriguez called out, struggling to keep a straight face, "the Imperial flagship is demanding to know what we're doing." "Tell them we're performing the traditional Earth diplomatic approach dance," Jack replied solemnly. "Add that it would be considered a grave insult to interrupt it." The Imperial fleet held their positions, forced to watch as a state-of-the-art Earth vessel moonwalked its way through their perfectly arranged formation. On the main screen, they could see Imperial officers frantically consulting their cultural databases. When they finally docked at the Imperial station, Jack led his crew out in their traditional Earth diplomatic attire, complete with platform boots, sequin jumpsuits, and carefully styled afros. The Imperial diplomatic corps, dressed in their usual crystalline formal wear, looked like they were having collective aneurysms. "Greetings, most radiant ones," Jack announced, executing a perfect disco point. "Before we begin negotiations, we must perform the sacred dance of diplomatic harmony. Commander Hayes, if you would." Lisa activated their portable sound system, and the opening notes of the Macarena filled the Imperial reception hall. The human delegation moved in perfect synchronization, their faces a study in diplomatic seriousness. The Imperial diplomats watched in confused silence until one junior diplomat, possibly the same one who had laughed during first contact, hesitantly began copying the movements. By the end of the day, the entire Imperial diplomatic corps had learned the Macarena. By the end of the week, it had spread to the Imperial Senate. The betting pool exploded when the Emperor's own grandnephew was caught practicing the moves in the sacred garden of eternal dignity. As Jack filed his daily report that evening, he made sure to include a special commendation for the marketing department. Who knew that intergalactic diplomacy could be solved with disco fever and carefully weaponized absurdity? Dr. Mike Reynolds stood before the Imperial Academy of Cultural Studies, trying to keep a straight face as he prepared to deliver his presentation. His daughter Katie, officially his cultural integration assistant, unofficially his chaos coordinator, was setting up what she called Earth's most important historical archives. "Dad," she whispered, "I added the keyboard cat compilation to the end of the presentation. You know, for academic purposes." Mike nodded solemnly. "Very academic. Did you include the strategic importance of Grumpy Cat?" "Obviously. It's crucial to understanding Earth's political dynamics." The lecture hall filled with the Empire's brightest young minds, along with several high-ranking cultural observers. Mike noticed they'd all adopted the habit of wearing at least one sequined accessory, a lingering effect of the traditional Earth diplomatic attire incident. "Distinguished members of the Imperial Academy," Mike began, "today we'll explore one of humanity's most powerful cultural forces, the meme." The universal translators struggled with the word, eventually settling on mind virus of shared amusement. Several Imperial scholars began taking furious notes. "Let's begin with one of Earth's most revered rulers," Mike continued, clicking to the first slide. "This is Lord Cheeseburger, whose dynasty shaped much of our early digital communication." Katie had to fake a coughing fit to hide her laughter as her father explained, with absolute academic seriousness, how cats had influenced Earth's development through strategic keyboard manipulation and gravity-based experiments with objects on elevated surfaces. The Imperial scholars were mesmerized. One particularly enthusiastic student raised her hand. "Does this explain why the human diplomatic vessel features images of these powerful beings on skateboards?" "Precisely," Mike replied. "The skateboarding cat represents humanity's dedication to combining dignity with mobility. Note how the cat maintains its regal bearing while engaging in high-speed transit." In the back of the hall, an older Imperial professor was frantically updating the Empire's official Earth cultural database. Under dominant species, he carefully wrote, "Uncertain. Further research needed regarding cat-human power dynamics." The presentation continued through various memes, each explained with increasing academic gravity. Mike discussed the philosophical implications of Doge, the economic impact of stonks, and the military significance of "this is fine, Doc." Then Katie took the stage for the practical demonstration portion. "Today," she announced, "we'll learn Earth's newest diplomatic dance form, the TikTok Challenge." What followed would later be described in Imperial records as the Great Movement Plague of 2025. Within hours, Imperial youth were attempting to recreate viral dances in the Academy's hallowed halls. Within days, it spread to the upper levels of Imperial society. The crisis point came when the Emperor's grandchild, third heir to the crystalline throne, was caught performing something called the Renegade in the sacred halls. The security footage somehow made its way onto the Imperial equivalent of social media, tagged with POV. "You're about to cause an intergalactic incident # Imperial Vibes # Terrain Takeover." The Imperial Cultural Protection Committee convened an emergency session to contain what they called dangerous human thought patterns. They arrived to find the entire junior diplomatic corps doing something called the Imperial Wobble, a dance that combined traditional Imperial ceremonial movements with Earth hip-hop. Mike watched the chaos unfold with professional interest, documenting everything for his research paper, Mimetic Warfare, a study in cultural cross-pollination through strategic absurdity. "Dad," Katie said, showing him her tablet, "we're trending on Imperial social media. They're calling it the Terrain Takeover. Also, someone remixed the Grand Marshal's Space Chicken Nugget speech into a sick beat." Mike adjusted his glasses, maintaining his scholarly demeanor. "Make sure to archive that. For academic purposes, of course." "Of course," Katie agreed, already planning the next phase of what she privately called Operation Culture Shock and Awe. That evening, as Mike filed his progress report to Earth's diplomatic court, he made sure to note that the cultural exchange was proceeding exactly as planned. He attached a video of an Imperial interpretive dance group performing to What Does the Fox Say? As supporting evidence. In the additional comments section, he wrote only, "The memes are evolving faster than expected. Sent more cat videos." Colonel Jessica Jess Martinez had faced many challenges in her military career, but none quite like explaining human battle tactics to a room full of increasingly agitated Imperial military commanders. The fact that her ship's eye, Sassy Sally, kept adding commentary wasn't helping. As you can see from this tactical display, Jess pointed to a hologram of Earth's defense fleet. Our ships are arranged in what we call the Space Conga Line formation. An Imperial Admiral's crystalline faceplate twitched. "You expect us to believe that your most advanced combat formation is based on a dance line. Sassy, show them formation Beta 9, Jess commanded. The holographic ships rearranged themselves into what was unmistakably a giant smiley face. The psychological impact of facing a fleet arranged in a giant emoji is quite devastating, Jess explained with perfect military seriousness. The enemy is too busy questioning their life choices to mount an effective defense. That's right. Sassy chimed in. Nothing says, fear us, like a friendly smile made of battleships. Would you like to see our LOL formation? It's particularly effective against pirates. The Imperial Strategic Command Room erupted in confused murmuring. One young officer raised his hand. But where do you hide your superweapons? Jess grinned. Oh, those. Take a look at this. She pulled up an image of what appeared to be a massive space billboard floating near Jupiter. It displayed a scrolling feed of dad jokes and cat memes. That's not a weapon, scoffed another admiral. That's just an advertisement for. Wait. His sensors were showing energy readings that broke several laws of physics. We find that hiding our most devastating weapons in plain sight works wonderfully, Jess explained. The dad joke array is actually our most powerful defense system. The puns are just a bonus. A junior Imperial tactician was frantically taking notes. So the human military doctrine is based on confusion. Precisely. Sassy interrupted again. Would you like to hear our battle cry? It's from an ancient Earth military engagement known as the Raid of Leroy Jenkins. Before Jess could stop her, Sassy played the historical footage. The Imperial military leadership watched in stunned silence as the ancient warrior Leroy charged into battle, his name becoming a cry that would echo through the ages. This makes no tactical sense, protested the head of Imperial Military Intelligence. Your ships are painted in bright colors. Your formations defy all strategic logic. Your most powerful weapons are disguised as entertainment systems. How have you survived as a species? That's the beauty of it, Jess replied, warming to her subject. Our enemies spend so much time trying to figure out what we're doing, they forget to actually fight us. We call it strategic confusion doctrine. She pulled up another display showing the human destroyer. It was painted to look like a giant rubber duck and was officially registered as the Quackening. This ship, Jess said proudly, has the highest confirmed kills in 3 sectors. The duck design is surprisingly aerodynamic. The psychological impact of being destroyed by a rubber duck is quite significant, Sassy added helpfully. Would you like to see our collection of space shanties? They're classified as sonic weaponry. The Imperial Military Council called for a recess, clearly needing time to process the information. As they filed out, Jess overheard one admiral muttering about humans being brilliantly insane, while another demanded research into tactical waterfowl applications. Later that evening, as Jess prepared her report for Earth Command, she noticed that several Imperial ships had begun adding small decorative elements to their hull designs. One destroyer had even painted a tiny rubber duck on its bow. Sassy, she called out. Add a note to the report. Cultural contamination proceeding faster than expected in military sector. Request permission to introduce them to the concept of ship mascots. Already done. Sassy replied cheerfully. I also took the liberty of sending them our catalog of custom ship horn sounds. The Imperial flagship now plays Never Gonna Give You Up when it enters hyperspace. Jess leaned back in her chair, satisfied. Sometimes the best defense really was a good meme. Commander Ryan O'Connor stood on the bridge of the U.S. Circus Maximus, formerly a top-of-the-line stealth cruiser, now disguised as what appeared to be a traveling space carnival. Complete with holographic balloons, cartoon sound effects, and a giant mechanical clown nose on the bow that honked when they fired the main cannon. Status report on the pirate fleet, he asked, adjusting his red foam nose. The entire crew wore them. It was part of the uniform now. Lieutenant Jennifer "Jazz Hands" Williams checked her console, her sequined gloves catching the light. The dread pirates of the Crimson Nebula are maintaining position near the Imperial trade routes. They've hit 3 cargo ships this week. Their leader is calling himself the Scourge of 7 Systems. Excellent. Ryan grinned. And our Carnival fleet is in position. Yes, sir. The U.S. Big Top and U.S. Ringmaster are standing by. The Imperial observers are confused. The Imperial military had insisted on sending observers for this operation, still trying to understand human combat doctrine after Colonel Martinez's enlightening presentation. They stood at the back of the bridge, their crystalline faceplates failing to hide their obvious concern as they watched the humans prepare for battle. Begin Operation Rubber Chicken, Ryan commanded. Deploy the party protocol. The U.S. Circus Maximus's external speakers crackled to life, broadcasting an ancient Earth melody known as Cotton Eye Joe, remixed with polka beats. The ship's holographic carnival lights began cycling through eye-searing color combinations. Sir, one of the Imperial observers interrupted, I must protest. This is a serious military operation against dangerous pirates, not a, what do you call it, children's birthday party. Ryan turned to face him, his expression perfectly serious despite the squeaking of his rubber nose. Tell me, Observer Third Rank, have you ever tried to maintain proper pirate menace while being serenaded by polka music? Before the observer could respond, Jennifer called out, Sir, the pirates are hailing us. On screen, Ryan commanded, straightening his rainbow-striped uniform jacket. The pirate leader appeared, his fearsome visage somewhat undermined by his obvious confusion. What in the 7 hells is that noise? Greetings, Ryan boomed in his best carnival barker voice. Welcome to the Grand Galactic Circus Fleet. You're just in time for our special performance. Surrender or be serenaded. Is this some kind of joke? The pirate snarled. Oh no, we're very serious about our entertainment, Ryan replied. Hit it, Jazz Hands. Jennifer pressed a button, and the U.S. Big Top and U.S. Ringmaster decloaked on either side of the pirate fleet. Both ships were painted in circus stripes and began broadcasting different songs, one playing The Chicken Dance, the other blasting Baby Shark. The pirates' combat coordination began to break down almost immediately. It's remarkably difficult to maintain proper battle formations while 3 different earworm songs play at maximum volume. The fact that the human ships were performing what appeared to be synchronized swimming maneuvers in space didn't help their concentration. Sir, one of the pirate captain's crew members could be heard saying, Our gunners are. They're dancing. They can't help it. The beat is too catchy. The Imperial observers watched in stunned silence as the fearsome pirate fleet was systematically driven mad by what humans called musical warfare. The coup de grace came when Ryan ordered the deployment of their secret weapon, a swarm of drone fighters painted like rubber chickens, each one programmed to squeak loudly on impact. After 48 hours of non-stop musical assault, interspersed with the worst dad jokes in human history broadcast on all frequencies, the pirates formally surrendered. Their official statement cited psychological damage from prolonged exposure to human entertainment as the reason. As they processed the captured pirates, one of the Imperial observers approached Ryan. Commander, he said stiffly, I owe you an apology. We thought your methods were undignified, but they are undeniably effective. Ryan squeezed his rubber nose solemnly. The secret, observer third rank, is that dignity is overrated. Now, would you like to learn our victory dance? It's called the Macarena. Later that week, the Imperial Military Command officially added weaponized annoyance to their tactical doctrine. They also requisitioned a shipment of rubber noses, for research purposes only, of course. Engineer Tyler Tech Wizard Wilson never meant to start a cultural revolution. He was just trying to help the Imperial IT department understand human social media algorithms. But as he stood before the Imperial Senate, watching their faces shift from outrage to confusion as they viewed the latest viral trends sweeping their networks, he realized things might have gotten slightly out of hand. "Please explain," the Senate chairman demanded, "why the Emperor's latest policy speech has been, as you say, remixed into something called a Galactic Drop the Beat Challenge." Tyler adjusted his collar. "Well, you see, it's actually quite impressive how your youth combined traditional Imperial hand gestures with Earth's breakdancing. The original speech has over 2 billion views now. On the massive display screen behind him, hundreds of young Imperials could be seen performing synchronized dance moves to their Emperor's auto-tuned voice. The background track somehow incorporated both the classic Imperial anthem and something that sounded suspiciously like Space Jam. And this," the chairman checked his notes, "TikTok embassy you established. A cultural exchange platform," Tyler explained smoothly. "We're promoting intergalactic understanding through the universal language of viral trends." What he didn't mention was that the most popular trend currently involved Imperial citizens recreating famous human memes using their natural crystalline properties to create rainbow-like shows. The dramatic Crystal Chipmunk remake had already won several underground art awards. A younger senator raised her hand. "I've noticed that communications among our youth have become unusual. They're replacing entire conversations with something called GFs." "Ah yes," Tyler nodded sagely. "A highly sophisticated form of emotional expression. For instance, when your third minister announced new trade regulations, the most common response was this." He played a clip of a surprised Pikachu face. Several junior senators had to suppress their laughter, having already been converted to what they called the new way. The chairman's faceplate twitched. "And what about these meme stocks that have appeared in our economic system? A fascinating fusion of human and Imperial culture," Tyler beamed. "Your youth have taken the concept of stonks and applied it to crystalline futures trading. The fact that they're using pictures of cats in business suits to represent market trends is purely coincidental." What Tyler carefully didn't mention was that his original explanation of human meme culture had somehow evolved into a full-scale social movement. Imperial youth were now communicating almost entirely in what they called crystal speak, a combination of traditional Imperial formal language and human internet slang. "But the most concerning development," the chairman continued, "is this. The screen showed the Emperor's own grandnephew, now known on Imperial social media as Crystalboy_420, hosting something called a Royal React stream. He was watching and commenting on classic human vines while wearing a cat ear headset. I assure you, Tyler said quickly, this is all part of building stronger intergalactic relations. Did you know your empire's approval ratings among human youth have increased 300% since Crystalboy_420 started his channel? Before the chairman could respond, all the screens in the Senate chamber suddenly switched to an incoming transmission. It was a perfectly choreographed group of Imperial Academy students performing what appeared to be a mix of the traditional crystal court dance and the Macarena. The hashtag Imperial Vibe Check floated across the screen. Several older senators clutched their ceremonial staffs in horror, but Tyler noticed at least half the chamber was secretly bobbing along to the beat. Later that evening, as Tyler filed his report to Earth's Cultural Integration Office, he added a special note, Operation Cultural Osmosis exceeding all expectations. The Empire's youth now refer to the Emperor as Big Crystal Energy. requesting additional budget for what they're calling the first annual Galactic Meme Awards. Also, please send more cat videos. They've become a form of currency in some sectors. As he finished his report, Tyler's computer pinged with a notification. The Empire's oldest and most prestigious university had just added a new course to their curriculum: Advanced Memetics and Cultural Engineering 101. Even better, they'd wanted him to teach it. Sometimes, he reflected, the best revolutions didn't need weapons at all. Just a good Wi-Fi connection and an endless supply of cat videos. Admiral Emily Gim Coffee Anderson stared at the tactical display aboard the USS Meme Supreme, watching as the Void Collective's perfectly geometric fleet approached Imperial space. Their ships were identical black cubes, moving in flawless mathematical patterns that somehow managed to look both beautiful and terrifying. "Well," she muttered, taking a sip from her coffee mug, labeled Void Machine Broke. "They certainly have a theme going." Her second-in-command, Captain Thomas, totally serious Parker, nodded grimly. The Empire's best weapons barely scratched them. They say the collective operates on pure logic. No emotions, no mercy, no sense of humor. No sense of humor. Emily's eyes lit up with that special gleam that had made her both famous and infamous throughout human space. Now that's just asking for trouble. The Imperial representative on her bridge, Crystal Commander First Rank Jenkins, he'd insisted on taking the human name after the rubber chicken incident, shifted uncomfortably. "Admiral, with all due respect, this is different from pirates or normal adversaries. The Void Collective has already calculated every possible tactical response." "Every logical response, you mean," Emily corrected, grinning. "Tell me, Commander Jenkins, have they encountered Operation Keyboard Cat yet?" "Operation what?" Emily turned to her communications officer. "Send the first package. Let's see how their pure logic handles this." Across every frequency, on every channel, the ancient Earth video began playing. A cat, sitting at a keyboard, playing a simple tune. It was followed by thousands of variations, remixes, and reinterpretations that humanity had created over the centuries. The Void Collective's perfect formation wobbled slightly. "Now," Emily commanded, "deploy the Nyan cat drones." Hundreds of small vessels, each painted in rainbow colors and leaving trails of sparkles, emerged from the human fleet. They flew in deliberately irregular patterns while broadcasting the infamous song that had driven humans mad for generations. The Imperial observers watched in fascination as the Void Collected ships began to show signs of confusion. Their perfect cubic formation started to display slight imperfections as their tactical computers tried to find logical patterns in the humans' apparently random behavior. "Phase 2, Emily announced. "Launch Operation Rickroll." Captain Parker tried to suppress his grin as he gave the order. Every human ship in the fleet suddenly projected massive holograms of Rick Astley dancing in space. The U.S. Meme Supreme itself transformed its external appearance to mimic a giant dancing emoji. "Their ships are displaying error messages," Commander Jenkins reported, his crystalline face showing what might have been awe. They're trying to understand why we would never give them up, never let them down." "And now," Emily said, standing dramatically, "the finishing move. Deploy the ultimate weapon." From the cargo bay of the U.S. Meme Supreme emerged what appeared to be an enormous space billboard. On it played a carefully curated sequence that humanity had spent centuries perfecting. Cats knocking things off tables, goats screaming like humans, dramatic chipmunks, double rainbow guy, and every other piece of pure, weapons-grade nonsense that the human race had ever produced. The Void Collected ships began to spin in place. "Their AI is attempting to find logical patterns in our behavior," Jenkins reported. "They're running billions of calculations per second, trying to understand. Wait, their primary systems are crashing." "You can't logic your way through the logic," Emily explained, sipping her coffee. "Especially when that logic has been refined into an art form over centuries of internet culture. The Void Collective's fleet hung motionless in space, their systems overwhelmed by what their logs would later describe as extreme cognitive dissonance caused by exposure to concentrated human cultural artifacts. When they finally regained basic functions, their first transmission was simple: "Your species defies all logical analysis. We surrender. Please stop the cats." Later, as Emily filed her report on the incident, she made sure to credit the entire history of human internet culture for the victory. She also added a special commendation for Keyboard Cat, writing, "In the face of an emotionless enemy, sometimes the best weapon is pure, unfiltered joy." Commander Jenkins, who had finally embraced human tactical doctrine, added his own note to the Imperial archives: "Victory achieved through deployment of strategic nonsense." Requesting immediate funding for research into weaponized cat videos, Senior Ambassador David "Dad Joke" Thompson stood before the newly established Intergalactic Comedy Academy's first graduating class. The Grand Hall, once the sacred chamber of imperial dignity, now featured a disco ball alongside the traditional crystal chandeliers. The graduating class included humans, Imperials, and even 2 reformed Void Collective units who had developed what they called humor subroutines. "When I first joined the diplomatic corps," David began, adjusting his formal rainbow ceremonial robe, "I never imagined I'd be standing here, teaching advanced dad jokes to the galaxy's future leaders. But here we are, and I couldn't be prouder." In the front row, the Emperor's grandchild, now known throughout social media as the Crystal Comedy King, nodded enthusiastically. His latest video series, reacting to ancient Earth vines with my Imperial grandpa, had broken all known galactic viewing records. "Today marks a new era," David continued. "You are the first officially certified humor integration specialists in galactic history. Your mission: to spread laughter across the cosmos, one terrible pun at a time." The Emperor himself sat in the audience, his crystalline form now adorned with what had become his trademark accessory: a red foam nose. After the Void Collective incident, he had embraced the power of human humor with surprising enthusiasm. His weekly dad jokes from the throne broadcasts had become mandatory viewing throughout the Empire. "Some said it couldn't be done," David grinned. "They said the Empire was too serious, too set in its ways. But look at us now." He gestured to the graduation ceremony program, which included such events as synchronized space dancing, advanced meme theory, and practical applications of rubber chicken physics. "Thanks to Lieutenant Amanda Thompson's first contact laughter," he continued, "Captain Jack Murphy's diplomatic dance moves, Dr. Mike Reynolds' meme warfare, Colonel Martinez's tactical absurdity, Commander O'Connor's circus fleet, Engineer Wilson's social media revolution, and Admiral Anderson's victory through weaponized cat videos, we've transformed the galaxy." The screens around the hall displayed highlights from the past year: Imperial warships painted in pastel colors, Void Collective units attempting to understand knock-knock jokes, and the now famous footage of the Emperor learning to floss during an official state function. "But our greatest achievement," David said, his voice growing serious for a moment, "isn't just making people laugh. It's proving that joy, humor, and a bit of well-placed absurdity can bridge any gap, solve any crisis, and bring together even the most different of species." He pulled out a datapad. "And speaking of bringing people together, I'm proud to announce that the Imperial Senate has just approved the creation of the first intergalactic meme exchange program. Yes, even the Void Collective has signed up. They're particularly interested in something they call computational comedy optimization." The ceremony concluded with the traditional Earth graduation custom, which, thanks to some creative historical revision by the human diplomatic corps, now involved a choreographed dance number to "Never Gonna Give You Up" while wearing increasingly ridiculous hats. Later that evening, at the graduation party, David watched as humans, Imperials, and reformed Void units attempted to teach each other their species' versions of the electric slide. The sight of a Void Collective unit earnestly attempting to moonwalk while an Imperial youth taught it the finer points of vibing would have been unthinkable just a year ago. His communicator buzzed with a message from Earth Command. Operation Cultural Revolution complete success. New mission. Implement galaxy-wide comedy combat training. P.S. Send more rubber chickens. David smiled, watching as the Emperor himself joined the dance floor, his crystal form reflecting the disco lights, while he performed a surprisingly decent robot dance. In the corner, a group of senior Imperial admirals was having an intense discussion about the tactical applications of party poppers. "Computer," he said to his personal AI, "make a note. The greatest weapon humanity ever developed wasn't our technology, our ships, or even our memes. It was our ability to make the galaxy laugh with us, not at us." The AI added, "Even if we sometimes had to hit them with a rubber chicken first." And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a Void Collective ship broadcast its first attempt at a knock-knock joke. It wasn't very funny, but it was a start.